Peace be with you. Dear friends, we celebrate 22nd Sunday in Ordinary Time. Today's Gospel reading from Matthew chapter 16, verses 21 to 27, we hear Jesus telling his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer greatly from the elders, the chief priests, and the scribes, and be killed, and on the third day be raised. This undoubtedly must have come as a terrible shock to the disciples. This was not at all the part of the plan and destiny of the coming of the Messiah. Popular Jewish expectation of a Messiah was a political Messiah, a king who would bring instant glory to Israel in terms of military success, wealth, and prosperity. The disciples shared this popular belief, and they, of course, as his followers and companions, would have a special share in the glory and privileges that went with it. What is worse, the agents of Jesus' humiliation and death will not be some outsiders like the pagans and barbaric Romans, but the leaders and most distinguished people of their own community, the elders, the chief priests, and the scribes, the people who formed the Sanhedrin, the ruling body of the Jews in Palestine. Furthermore, it would happen in Jerusalem, the holy city, the site of the temple where God dwelt among his people. It might be remembered, however, that Jerusalem was the city where the prophets died. The disciples must have felt very disturbed and confused indeed. Same Peter, who a little while ago acknowledged Jesus as Christ, was not ready to accept this picture of Jesus. How can this happen to the Messiah, King of Israel? So it is not surprising that at this point, Peter, still fresh with his newly acquired status, takes Jesus to one side, speaking to him almost on equal terms. Lord, he says, this must not happen to you. Stronger still is the Lord's rebuke, which must have come as somewhat unexpected to say the least. Get behind me, Satan. Was Peter an agent of the devil? Of course, that's how Satan works. When Christ was being tempted in the wilderness, Satan offered him kingdom without the cross. Peter offers the same temptation and earns the same title. The devil espouses such worldly and human values, such things like seeking the glory of the kingdom with lack of suffering. In adopting such a position, Peter places himself in league with Satan. Thus, he who is called rock is now called stumbling block, setting himself in the path of the Savior. Jesus tells Peter that he is thinking in purely human terms and not the way God thinks. Having put Peter in his place, Jesus now turns to his disciples, saying, if anyone would come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. This passage indeed presents to us the dominant and ever recurring themes of Jesus' teaching about Christian discipleship. There are three things which a disciple must be aware and prepared to do. First, the disciple must deny himself. Normally, when we say deny oneself, we understand self denial, self renunciation, that is, to give up something, a part we use. For Jesus, to deny oneself means in every moment of our life to say no to self and yes to God. To deny oneself means once and for all to dethrone self and enthrone God and make him the dominant principle of our life. Second, the disciple has to take up his cross. This means that he must take up the burden of sacrifice. A Christian life is a life of sacrificial service. He must abandon his personal ambition in order to serve Christ. He will have to sacrifice his time and leisure for him. It means that one has to be constantly aware of the demands of God and needs of others. He must accept the pains and difficulties of Christ. Third, the disciple must follow Jesus Christ. This is to say, he must render Jesus perfect obedience in thought, word, and action. That is, he walks in the footsteps of Christ and go wherever he leads him. Dear friends, Jesus makes it clear that he is going to the cross and the disciples must be willing to follow. The way to life is found in the way of the cross, which ends not in death and defeat, but in new life, glorification, and exaltation. Discipleship is not about achieving success, greatness, or status in this world. Those provide only a false sense of security and cannot give real life. It is only when we get rid of our false life that we discover our real life, which is not centered in self but entirely in God. We gain life by losing life. Suffering and death lead to life and glorification. It is a journey from cross to crown, pain to gain, and from death to life. God bless you.